Right, today is a slightly new beginning for the Outspoken Engineer podcast, season 3, episode 1. We've gone through HVAC experts, we've gone through disruptors. Now we want to speak to somebody that has done something that others haven't done. And what I mean by that is currently you could have just passed your GCSEs. You could be someone that's not done as well in school or in work because you've just not put the effort in. And you're sort of thinking, well, I'm never going to make anything of myself. So we're sitting down with someone that's actually done what most of us haven't done. He's invented, he's invested, and he's actually helping people. And he never came from a silver spoon environment of entrepreneurs. He's actually done it all himself. Season 3, episode 1, we're sitting down with Jordan Daykin.
And that's what our next entrepreneur hopes. He's 18-year-old Jordan Daykin, and he has a solution to the challenge of firmly fixing screws into plasterboard.
Hello Dragons, my name is Jordan and I'm here from my company GripIt Fixings looking for an investment of £80,000 for 20% of my company.
So I'm very happy to meet you halfway because I'd like this to start off as a partnership.
Well, I'd like to accept your offer.
Excellent.
I'm sitting down with Jordan Daykin. Hello, Jordan.
Hi, Jacob. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Really appreciate you coming on to the podcast.
Awesome.
You're going to have a lot to give, I'm sure. We've had a chat before. And yeah, Jordan's got quite some story. Right, let's just jump straight in. So I hope this is a pure description of you. Jordan Daykin is an inventor. He created the GripIt, which was a plasterboard fixing, which did incredibly well. He was the youngest winner of the Dragon's Den for some time. Mm-hmm. Got the investment. He's contributed to several business investments ranging from marketing to hardware to hospitality. He's a contributor to helping those who need mentoring through a consultancy business that you have. In 2021, you created the Daykin Foundation with a mission to inspire young entrepreneurs.
Yep, that's right.
Fantastic.
Sounds easy.
Right. Question 1 for you, Jordan. If I was in your class in year 8 or 11 at school,
Yeah.
who were you?
Well, a difficult one to answer because I wasn't at. I left school at year 7. But I was always someone looking at ways to make money. So I did the whole back in year 7, I think it was. Swine flu came about.
Okay.
So everyone was kind of panicking about that at school. So I used to go to Tesco's and buy the little anti-back things at like 90p.
Okay.
Go and sell them on at £2 or £3.
What, in school?
In school, yeah.
Okay.
Because they were literally going crazy at one point.
So was that similar to COVID where it was like cleaning hands and things?
Yeah,
or?
I think that's what the school were kind of portraying, is like make sure you wash your hands before you eat. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay. So were you going to school thinking, I'm going to make some money today out of these kids?
Oh yeah, and that would fund my kind of lunch money and that sort of thing. So
right, okay.
and I did the standards tuck shop type thing.
You did the sensible option because once upon a time I used to do that with cigarettes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever do that with cigarettes.
No, not with
50p
cigarettes. No,
cigarette?
but yeah, if I would have been in year 11, I probably would have.
Okay, yeah,
but,
year 7 is a bit young.
But yeah, couldn't get them on the cigarettes.
So classes and things. Were you the grade A student?
No. No, I used to enjoy learning. Probably more maths.
So if I was to look at year 7 and be like, this boy is going to get an A in his GCSEs or 9, would you have been that child?
No. Every exam I ever did, even when I was doing home tutoring, I would fail the exam.
Right. Was that because of effort, or you did have your effort in other things?
I don't know. I thought I knew what I was doing, but when it actually came to the day, I don't know if it was just pressure. I'm really not sure. When I did because I actually stopped home tutoring probably year 9 anyway. I didn't bother doing it after that. But my tutor at the time was saying, "Oh, you should do a GCSE now." Right. I'm thinking that's early, and he said, "Yeah. Put you into GCSE."
Okay.
For business studies and IT.
Okay.
Failed both, even though I'd already built my own website, sold it for £10,000. So
wow.
I'd proven I could do it, but I just couldn't get it on paper clearly. And
okay,
that's not what they.
So
were
it sounds like okay, so that's the whole sort of head to mouth to hands thing.
Yeah,
which
I don't know. Nothing was working there. So
okay, fine. So you obviously wasn't born trying to sell swine flu antibacterial things to children. So where did that come from? What environment were you brought up in then to have that?
I suppose both my dad and my granddad always had businesses. My granddad had retired, semi-retired when I came about. So it was mainly my dad that was doing all sorts. And
so when you grew up, was your dad working a lot? Did he have his own business? What was your dad, what was your dad doing when you sort of grew up in year 7?
Yeah, working a lot. So in year 7, he was actually in. He had a business in Bristol, just down the road. But he had kind of his hands in lots of different pies.
Okay.
And another business in Sierra Leone in Africa.
Okay.
So he
Interesting.
ended up moving over there.
Right.
I think it was literally the end of year 7. So.
Wow. So were you growing up to be in your dad's footsteps, or was it just a natural progression of being in with your dad that I want to be like my dad?
Yeah, I suppose so. I used to go into work with him, like in Bristol, the weekends I'd go in, or like school holidays, I'd go in and sit in the office. I thought it was cool, kind of meeting the people, and he'd give me different jobs to do. And but at the same time, he always used to say to me, having a business is all great, but 9 to 5 jobs sometimes is quite nice because you've got a guaranteed paycheck every month. For
sure. And also you can have a bit more of a normal life, rather than always worrying about the phone and emails and things, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because when I look back at my childhood, we'd go on holidays, but my dad was never really there. He was there, but not there.
Okay, so your spark for swine flu in year 7 was a result of your upbringing with your dad.
Yeah. And we used to go to, he had a company that did like vending machines type thing. So we'd go to Booker's, Costco, I think it was.
Okay.
And see things in bulk. So that's where I used to see like sweets and think, oh, okay.
I see.
I could sell them on.
I see.
So it just came naturally, really.
Right. Okay. And then your granddad. So your dad went to Sierra Leone. Were you living? So growing up after your dad had gone to?
Yeah, gone to Africa. I moved with my grandparents. I either had the option of going to live in Sierra Leone, which I didn't really fancy, or live with my grandparents. And I'd always been very close with them, so it was kind of natural for me.
Okay.
And my granddad would always tell stories of kind of businesses he'd had, things that had gone well.
Did you see him as your typical as we do with our grandparents?
Yeah.
Granddad.
Yeah. We'd sit there and he'd spend hours and hours. We'd go on. So when we said holidays, my dad would normally pay for the holiday, and it would be me, my nan, and granddad that would go.
I see.
And like cruises, and we'd sit out there and listen. He'd tell me all sorts of stories of businesses that had gone really well, things that had gone wrong.
So he's got a lot. He's got some stories.
Oh yeah, people who ripped him off.
Okay.
So
so then with that, friends. So because your upbringing, to be like that and look at sweets to sell to loads of people and things, what were you like friend group wise? Did you have a big friend group, small friend group?
At the time, before I left school, yeah. So I, at beginning, back in up until year 4, I was in standard state primary school.
Yeah.
And then my parents thought it'd be good to put me into private school.
Yep.
Which when I look back now, I think I wish they didn't. But we did. And then when I left in year 7, I kind of wanted to kind of distance myself because there was a lot of, you talk about silver spoon when we started. There's a lot of children that you meet that are like that, and they're just not. They're not normal kids in that.
I'm with you. With your, which are in alignment with your upbringing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was very difficult because although like at the time my dad we'd have money, we were on nice holidays and stuff, but because I'd been in that journey where sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't.
For sure.
I kind of knew what life was even back then.
Okay.
Where these guys were, I'm off to Saint-Tropez on holiday.
Oh wow.
Has your dad only got an Audi? My dad's got a Ferrari.
I'm with you.
It was quite. You always felt like you were comparing. Don't get me wrong. There was some real nice friends I'd made at those schools,
for sure.
But it was kind of not a very nice. It was quite cliquey. Even back then. So when I stepped out to do home tutoring, no one really bothered with me anyway because I was probably like a weirdo that's just left.
But then growing up with, did you have friends? You must have had friends. Because what I'm trying to say with it, get with this is, if you've got a really interesting idea, like selling cleaning products because of swine flu, or just in general, even as you got older, as a friend, you want to tell your closest friend, right?
Yeah.
Did you have that?
Yeah, I had one that was originally from primary school. The primary school I met when I was in year 3. That we kept in touch.
Okay,
and we kind of got back in touch more because when I was home tutoring, I had so much time to be on I think it was Facebook or MSN.
MSN. Oh wow, you did MSN.
Yeah, so I'd been messaging friends that I'd met before, and we met back up, and then I was quite close to my cousins, so I then went and met his group of friends, and then that's kind of when it expanded. So I'd say probably from the first 2 years of home tutoring, probably didn't have that many friends at all. Probably the one from primary school, close friends.
So we haven't got a reference point with you where you've got bad people around you that are doing things they shouldn't to goody two shoes. You're actually more. I'm not going to use. I'd say a bit of a loner, but loner in a positive way where you were comfortable because you had a family
Yeah.
You had a family which had similar alignment with you because they brought you up.
Yeah.
But you didn't feel like it was bad that.
I'd say loner.
Would you?
Yeah, I grew up around adults really. So when I went out and met friends when I was say a couple of years after.
Yeah.
People would be like, oh, you're a bit strange because like I could talk better to their parents than I could with
Okay,
them.
respect.
Okay. I'd kind of grew up already.
Okay.
When like I was hanging around like 15, 16. I'm
I'm with you.
People that are kind of don't
I'm
have
with
a clue,
you.
don't know what they want to do.
Okay.
I've already planned my kind of
Okay.
life.
Okay.
I'm looking to buy a house type thing.
So the fact that
so-
you wasn't the Mr. Popular kid,
Yeah.
it didn't bother you at the time
No.
because you had your you knew what you were kind of doing ish. And again, people that are watching this, if you're not Mr. Popular in school, it ain't really a big deal.
No.
Whereas whereas if you wanted to be that Mr. Popular in school, you probably wouldn't. You may not be sitting here today as such. You know?
I think that, and Mr. Popular changes all the time, doesn't it? One minute you need to be the hard nut, the next minute you need to be the boffin.
Yeah, of course,
of
course.
Cool nowadays changes all the time. So like, I think unless you really want to keep up with that.
So really, you were comfortable.
Yeah, I was comfortable, and I did meet, and you end up meeting the right friends because you end up thinking, oh yeah, they're good.
So because you got on with them.
Yeah, not
Okay.
because of any. You're not looking
Cool.
for
Yeah, of course.
boffin or you're not looking for hard nut, you just-
the fakeness of trying to fit in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I met a good friendship group, went through then the normal teenager stuff, but it was weird because I then started to live a little where I was having house parties and I was getting drunk and all the stuff that you do when you're a kid. But at the same time, I was still running my businesses and.
Wow. So you actually started very young.
Yeah, my first business when I was 12.
Wow. You started very young. Damn. Your dad and granddad must have been very proud at the time.
I don't think my dad used to think because it was RuneScape. I don't know if you ever played that.
Ben, RuneScape, heard of it?
Yep.
What is it?
It's just like a MMORPG that you could go around this like
Sorry,
magical realm.
Is that a game?
Yeah. So it's an online game.
Role playing game thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you made a role playing game.
Yeah, no, I didn't make it. I wish I did.
Okay.
But I used to play it and I used to get addicted and I used to spend all my like pocket money as such on like you could cheat. A bit like on apps where you can buy extras.
Okay.
And then I thought there was a company in China I used to buy it off of online, a website, and I got chatting to them and they said, oh, if you can have it, if you like gain virtual gold, basically.
Yeah.
They said, oh, if you can make enough of it, we'll buy it back off you because you can make it in the game. So I started to basically buy it off of people, sell it on, and I ended up creating my own website.
Sounds crypto-y.
Yeah.
It does have crypto traits, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does when you say it like that, actually. Never thought of it like that. But so I ended up creating my own website, basically mirroring what they were doing.
Okay.
And selling virtual gold and hacks and cheats to people like me that were spending money.
Okay.
Built that up, and then they ended up buying it off me.
Smart. So you saw there was a lesson there.
Yeah, there was a little.
But that was never the plan.
No, never the plan. I just wanted to kind of get stuff for free rather than having to pay for it all the time.
Right.
My dad kept saying, "How much have you spent on my bloody card on that?"
Right. Okay.
And I think at the time, even when I was literally selling it, I went to my dad and said, "Oh, that company wants to buy it off me." And he said, "Oh yeah, all right, I'll believe it when I see it."
And they did.
And they did. In my PayPal account, £10,000 came in.
Wow.
And he was like, "Let me read that. And then he was like, "Wow, okay, fair enough." So yeah, I don't think they were proud, but I think they never. But my granddad always showed it. My dad kind of was like, "Don't believe it until he actually see."
Okay. Well, sometimes that's not a bad thing.
No, it's good because I want
it's
to prove them wrong.
Yeah. Rather than saying because we're in a culture of it's acceptable to be last in a 100-man race. It was participating that taking part and all of the clapping and stuff, and you sort of think you're last. Like why you can what there's no competition there.
Yeah.
But to be on the flip,
taking part now apparently is
acceptable, which it kind of is, but it ain't winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so from school, GripIt. How did you? Where was the progression into GripIt?
So it was when I was 13. So around similar time, everything was changing with school. I started to. Well, my dad moved to Africa, and I had the choice of whether or not to live over there and go to school over there, or stay in England.
Yeah.
At the time, I was still at school, so it was better for me to stay with my nan and granddad.
Okay.
they didn't have the space for me, so they converted their single garage into a bedroom.
Okay. Was you sleeping in a garage, or was it actually a converted room?
They did convert.
Okay,
Yeah. I'd like to say I was camping in the garden or something, but no.
Okay.
So they done, my granddad was an architect like before, so like he got me quite involved in the whole design and the building control and all that.
Sounds
sort of
fun, right? Was it fun?
Yeah, it was
for
quite fun
okay.
for a kid.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, it was like a little project for him. So anyway, when he'd got it to a point where I could actually move in, and it got to the point where like blinds, curtains, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was where GripIt was invented, because I was back then a really light sleeper. I still am now. I don't like sleeping in the light. I like it pitch black.
Mega black. Okay.
So he wanted to put a curtain out and a blind up. And my granddad was like, yeah, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. So he ordered all the bits. He's up the ladder trying to drill in to put a conventional fixing into plasterboard.
Okay.
And because it was like a modern build, they just dot and dabbed it, onto the brick wall. And every time I went in, he kept hitting the lintel, which was above the window.
Yeah.
And breaking either the drill bit or the fixing wouldn't fit because it was too long and the gap wasn't there. So he's having a right fit. Obviously, I don't really understand what's going on. All I want is a blind and a curtain rail up so I can go to sleep that night. And he said, I know what we can do. Come with me. So we went into his shed in his garden. And it's not some massive big warehouse, which people used to say.
I'm thinking of a little shed with a lathe or something.
Yeah, well, you didn't even have a lathe at the time, but yeah, we did end up getting one because we needed it to make GripIt. But literally a workbench in a little shed. And he bodged what we now call GripIt, but
really,
yeah, and it literally was bits of wood, pins, super glue. It was really kind of nothing what it is.
So was it a case of granddad, that's amazing, we should
no, not even then. It was so we got it up, and he had me up there trying to get it in because obviously he was 73, 74 at the time, so he wasn't great on his legs. So I was quite involved in the whole trying to get it, bodging it to work.
Okay.
And that was it. We were kind of quite glad it was all done at the end. And it was only a couple of weeks later when I wanted to hang a telly on the wall. And because I'd seen it on somewhere, and I was like, I'd like a telly in the middle of the room. And he was like, unless there's a wood beam.
Joist. Yeah, of course.
I'm like, well, I want it in the middle because I don't know why. I've got a bit of OCD, I suppose, even then.
Fair enough.
And I was like,
the joists are usually 400 apart, aren't they?
Yeah,
so if you hit a joist, you're off.
Yeah, so he's knocking it. He's like, it won't be. So I said, well, surely there's something to do, some fixing. So we went down to Wix again and looked at all B&Q, I think, looked at all the different things. And he was like, no, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work. And I said, oh, what about that, how we did it the other day? Because it was like the wings. I was like, surely a bigger one would take the weight. And he was like, I don't know. And anyway, went back and made a bigger version. And we tested it because he was paranoid that the telly cost a couple £100. And he said, if that falls on the floor, that's...
Yeah, of course.
So we did it on their patio. We hung like a bracket on a plasterboard like wall bit of scrap we had.
And it helped.
Yeah, we were doing it with bricks, and we were just weighing a brick on the bathroom scales and putting them
on
there.
Just to confirm, the plasterboard would fail before you're fixing.
Yeah. It actually ended up taking so many bricks, it ended up cracking his patio slabs.
Oh wow!
Because
okay,
kind of landed with such a.
So at the end of that, was it
did that, and then it was, I think the next day or something. They had like an outdoor swing that we'd sit on and talk about. Well, normally his life stories.
Okay.
And I said, I reckon there's something in that. And he said, oh, what do you mean? I said, I reckon if
you said that.
Yeah, I said if we had that problem, surely other people have had that problem. And then I went into the computer, went onto Google and looked on loads of forums. I just typed in how to hang heavy things on plasterboard or something like that. And there was pages and pages and pages of people saying
nothing.
I said to him, this is good. And he said, I'm 73. I said, I'm retired. I'm done.
Wow.
He's always been an inventor in life, but I think the last few years he had ideas and they hadn't worked. So I think he was kind of like, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
And I was like,
well, he was an older guy. Like, come on, he's done a year.
No, but like, he was done. Okay. And I said, well, look, I reckon if you can help me get this to a stage where
you've got a product,
I can sell it. And
at this point, how old were you?
13.
And you the only experience you had was selling cleaning product.
Selling swine food products, some virtual gold on a website I created.
Okay, and you were confident enough to say, I can sell it.
Yeah, well, I think it was probably confidence, probably a bit stupidity at the time
Yeah,
because
okay.
I didn't want to go back to school. I just left school at the time, and I was because I left before I was expelled. Basically, I was in a bit of bullying incident, and I fought back once, and then it was an issue, so I left, and then doing home tutoring, I'd found a gap in the market there as well, so. Because I was actually trying to do it as a full-time education, trying to get tutors back to back, like to actually run it as a school day, was like unheard of because you'd have to ring a maths tutor and English
for
tutor.
sure. Okay.
Normally,
So
like,
you would have a lot of time during the day. You do math one day, and you'd probably have half a day to a whole day, 3/4 of a day spare. Yeah.
So because normally tutors are just for like extra
Curriculum,
extra help. So I ended up creating an agency called Tutors Base where. At the time I had spare, people could ring me and say, "Oh, I need to find a maths tutor," and I would then find them and set them up as like a timetable.
Wow.
And so I was running that whilst doing
Your brain was thinking
just on
then.
overload. But all I wanted to do was just make enough money, so I didn't have to really work.
Were you seeing it about money then, or was it a bit of money and a bit of, or more of a how can I help? How the how and why? Was it I can see something here?
It was more that I knew my dad was not happy with me home tutoring. He wanted me to go back to school.
Oh, right.
So I knew I needed to try and do something that I could say, "Oh, well, I'm doing this." So
sure.
It was kind of a need. Because he was
was at that age, if we were to go back in time and I was to speak to your dad, would your dad be like, "Oh, you don't stop that kid"? Like,
yeah, because when he'd come back for like a couple of weeks at a time, I'm there like, "Oh, look at this, and if I can get an extra 10 hours per week for tutors, this is going to be this," and he'd be like, right,
to the stage where you'd probably think you wouldn't take you very serious.
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot of talking, but you're young. But
and
it has to start from somewhere, right? Before you start taking that action, the talking.
Yeah, it was good, and I think he kept saying, which drove me more, this whole 9 to 5 job thing. Kind of saying, you need to go to school, you need to get an education because you need something to fall back on if things go wrong. But to me, I absolutely hated school. I don't know what it was about it. I just didn't like the having to be there the whole day. For sure.
So your example versus there are some children out there that don't enjoy school just because they're not bright. No one is born bright. You've had this itch sort of which has pulled you out of that. But the reality is there are other things out there rather than just having to stick to that curriculum just to get you a job. You don't have to stick to the normal. Well, I suppose legally you probably have to stick to the school curriculum these days. But if you're not the brightest, it's not the end of the world.
No,
there is other ways of. There are other routes to take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a dad now, so I'm dreading my kids growing up because they're going to be like, "Well, you left at 13," but so I've got to be careful.
Do you have any traits with your current children where you can see like inner Jordan? Or are they still too young?
My daughter is literally me as a little girl, which is scary because
really,
and people say this is what you were like. I think, oh Christ, but
wow.
Her OCD, so she's already got the kind of want everything perfect. I think that's literally what I was like with the telly.
Oh really?
But I do get now what my dad was saying about the whole 9 to 5 thing. I think, but at the time you didn't get it. But
so you're in the camp a bit like myself where you can be non-stop, and some people will look at, which is something that I really need to touch on, and that's you sitting in traffic and you see someone in a nice car, and it's very easy to turn around and say, flash git, what's he done? Is he a drug dealer, or is he this, or is that, or it's a boat, or it's online social media. It's easy for us to look at them and go, it's all right for them, but the reality is, out of the 9 to 5 job, it's a war. It's a non-stop war.
Yeah, and it's worry, and then you get to a point and you think, oh, this is good. I'll employ someone. That just comes a whole load more challenges because then you're responsible for their mortgage. And
correct.
Their family.
Exactly that.
And
you've got to pay for their family, their mortgages, and if you make stupid decisions, you're going to affect a lot of lives.
Yeah, and when things go well, they're good, but when things go bad...
So have you had the, because I've had it, where you sit down and you sort of think, damn, I should have stuck to the 9 to 5.
Well, I sometimes think I can't even go back to 9 to 5. What can I put on my? Well, I could put now on my CV, but before I had no GCSEs, no education. They'd be right, okay, and you want to come and work
do
for
it?
me?
Yeah, of course. Okay. So
but
you were actually a bit like you were fighting that 9 to 5 analogy that your dad said, but also you're a case of, well, my CV would be pretty poor to get a 9 to 5 anyway. So you've got to do something.
Even more pressure because I think this has to work because
So far,
choice.
go past a few years. So,
Yeah.
Where did you take GripIt after a couple of years then? Because there was a lot of learning and you
so-
were young.
Yeah. So my granddad agreed to help kind of bring it to market, but he basically said that's as much as he's doing in terms of getting involved.
Yeah.
So it took, the only thing he was insistent on is getting protection of the product.
Yeah.
Because he knew and heard stories of people kind of nicking people's ideas.
Yeah.
And he'd been ripped off a lot in his past, so he was very kind of protective of me. So it took 4 years to get it from the initial concept.
And were you non-stop at that point? As in, was GripIt your life?
No, not because there was not much to do really. Because we got someone to do like draft the patent, and sent that in. Me and him had gone 50-50 on that because I'd used my money from selling the RuneScape business, and he's done an architect job and got some money from that. So it's we were kind of like, we didn't want to spend much on it because we didn't know.
Yeah, how far it was going to go.
Yeah,
okay.
So we had that going, and at the same time I was doing my tutoring business to keep me kind of busy, and that was really the kind of time when I started to enjoy my life a bit. That's when I started making friends and kind of going out, getting drunk, doing all the
kid
fun
stuff. Yeah.
And then probably the last 6 months of when we knew the patent was going to be granted was when it started to get a bit more serious. So we found suppliers. They never, like the first few suppliers I met didn't take me seriously because I was 16.
Wow.
I don't think they ever thought I was that young, but they must have knew I was young.
Wow.
And I'm getting I can remember literally one meeting, my granddad drove me there because I couldn't drive. And I got in for the meeting, come out, and they're like, "Oh, how are you getting back?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to the train. I've got a taxi coming," because I didn't want to tell them that my granddad was parked around the corner.
Wow. I love the way your granddad was just like, "Go on then, deal with it. I'm sitting in the car.
Yeah,
I've got the right."
I did pull it. He did come in to most, but like to some of them, I was like, "No, I want to try and do this on my," because I was trying to.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Okay,
bless him. But yeah, got it to the point where I made 2,000 fixings. So there's 5. If anyone knows GripIt, there's 4 different colors. They hold different weights. But as samples, I'd got 500 of each made, and I made up 400 sample packs.
Did you make them yourself?
Yeah. Literally me and my granddad.
Okay.
And because although he didn't want to get too involved, when it started to actually become there in his hands, he kind of started to show an interest then. Kind of like, oh, okay, I invented this.
Okay.
So it was very much kind of us around this sort of dining table at home. And then sent it off with a leaflet that we designed. I'd gone to like a local printing company that my cousin worked at and designed this leaflet. It's nothing like anything we market like today, but it worked. And then sent it off to Screwfix, Wix, all the big guys, small guys. Literally, I just thought I'd cast the net wide and see if anyone
would bite.
And then 4 days later, by pure luck, my nan's house phone rang and I answered, and it was Screwfix.
Oh, okay.
Nearly fell off my chair because I was like, hello.
And how old were you?
This point, 16.
Wow.
Maybe just turning 17. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they invited me in for a meeting.
They know you were 16?
No one knew. And I didn't tell anyone my age until I went on to Dragon's Den because I had to come clean then because I was the youngest. So, So yeah, went. They
and were you confident, or were you faking it till you're making it kind of thing?
Fake it till I make it, I think.
Wow.
But I think it was kind of like a adrenaline rush type thing. I kind of fed off of it, if that makes sense.
I can see being 16 as well. Like, wow, like it's there would have been naivety from your part, but then an excitement and a fire, which is probably they never see.
Yeah.
So I can imagine you walking into the Screwfix office and they think, "Who is this guy? This is all over a fixing. This is amazing."
Well, I for this one, I actually brought my dad. My dad was back actually at this point, so like for a space time, I was like, "Oh, can you come with me?" And then it was the first time he really started to take GripIt seriously, because before we were coming up with names, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Wall Mighty," and all like coming up with just like.
Where did GripIt? Where did it come from? Was it just a throwing names around? And
we had a list of like 20 odd names. Okay. But really, it was only me and my granddad that took it seriously because I'd done so much. I thought for me, it was a no brainer. It was going to work. Yeah. Whereas my dad and that
because it did work because you needed it. So the need was there. And, okay.
But yeah, he came along to the meeting with me, and it was weird because it was the first time I'd seen him nervous. Because obviously my dad was always kind of someone I looked up to and someone. But actually, I realised since then his pitching is not his strong point. So they were asking questions, and he was kind of
Wow.
And I was taken, but I suppose, like you said, I was young, so I was just. I
You
didn't
could
really-
say something which was which would come across stupid
Yeah,
or
but-
wrong,
yeah.
but because you were young and you had youth about you, you could.
Yeah, it was real surreal. We were there for about an hour and a half, and then literally I came out with an order.
Okay.
For about £25,000.
Okay, wow.
So it literally took it from just an idea that I thought was going to work
To something.
And then I thought, Christ, how am I going to make these things?
Wow. So to go, so to go from that on your own. So before you got into Dragon's Den, where were you like? Where was the business?
So before Dragon's Den, we were in about 500. We were online with Screwfix in about 500 stores.
Okay, so you were working full time on the product by then.
Yeah. So I still had the tutoring business, but I didn't grow it anymore. I just let it tick along.
Yeah.
And that was kind of giving me a little bit of money every month to keep putting into GripIt, really.
Okay.
Because it was costing everything was costing money. Marketing was costing money. Everything.
For sure.
But yeah, literally it was a case. As soon as I walked out of Screwfix, placed orders with the suppliers, and we were getting like thousands of each component being delivered on pallets outside my granddad's house. I was having to handball them off.
Amazing.
And then I'd spend my days selling. So although we were in Screwfix, I used to then ring around all the local independents and say, "Oh, we're going to Screwfix. Do you want this?" And then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, if Screwfix are taking it, we must take it." And it literally just went crazy.
So you leveraged that pretty well.
Yeah, I'd sell.
It's in
all day.
Screwfix.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. When can we get it? Oh, well,
Okay.
Screwfix go live in March. Oh, well, we want it in February. So it's and
Gotcha.
then I was my own worst enemy, really, because I'm thinking, I need to make more now. So I'd sell all day, and then I'd pick. All my friends were at school, and that's the only people I knew that would help make them. So I used to get my nan to pick them all up from school or from their houses, and then they'd come back in the evening and make them literally around dining tables.
Wow. Was there a fun element to it for you then? Like
Oh, it
looking
was
back
fun.
now, like
yeah, that was fun.
what a great thing to do with your friends.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and it was probably okay.
And they were all getting like 3 pence of fixing, and we were doing like 100 now, so like £3 an hour.
Okay.
And I can remember like someone who actually works with me now, Beth. Her friend said to her, she was working at Matalan at the time. She went, "Why don't you come work at Matalan? You can get like £6, £5.50 an hour or whatever." And Beth's like, "But it wouldn't be fun." And because it was fun, because my nan would make us chips and that and keep us fed, and we'd have the music going. And
Right. Okay.
but yeah, I'd
Basically create a sweatshop in your nan's house.
with friends. Yeah, basically.
And they're all kids.
Yeah, basically child labour. Yeah. But no, literally, it was just a routine.
Amazing.
Every day. It was sell all day, make in the afternoon, and then I'd pack at night, and then it would literally, I'd get deliveries sent out in the morning. It would just every day, 7 days a week.
So the question I've got for you on this then is, how did you actually end up applying for the Dragon's Den?
So
Because this was this one of their first series,
no. So
or Dragon's Den been established for a
a
while?
few years. I'd always watched it, and I used to watch it with my granddad all the time. And be like, "Oh, I'd love to go on there." And he was like, "No, you wouldn't. Look at them all falling apart. They don't know the numbers."
Yep.
But I knew I had to be 18 because that's the youngest you could get on there.
Okay.
So it was when I was 17 was when kind of everything was getting busy with Screwfix and everything was launching. And I think 6 months before I turned 18, I went onto the website and was kind of trying to look at the application process to see what it was. And I tried to apply, but I couldn't because of my age. So I had to wait until...
At this point, I'm going to assume that you were probably looking at a way before 18 of getting on the show with a legal loophole or lying or coming up with something, right?
Well, I thought I could apply early and see if they get me and do it next year. But
Fine. Okay.
No. So anyways, a couple of months after my 18th birthday, the idea popped back into my head because it was with me. I'm one of those things. I'll do that, and then because life gets in your way, you kind of forget about things. But it came back up mainly because I needed exposure because I was getting the product out there into stores, but I was thinking I now need to get people to buy it off the shelves because otherwise,
I get it.
Screwfix is going to turn around and go, "Well, it's not selling."
For sure.
And I'd done YouTube videos, and I was doing breakfast mornings, so I was going to like local stores and cooking bacon sandwiches and say to people, "You can have a bacon sandwich, but you have to watch it."
So a lot of this is what a lot of people do, don't they? With hardware, they bring a product in and they bring a lot of bacon sandwiches with them.
And you literally
but as you know, it doesn't actually make people place orders.
No.
Well, it does sometimes, but not always.
We had to change it. We had to buy something, and then I'll give you a bacon
That's
sandwich.
it.
But
okay,
I couldn't. There was only so much I could do because it wasn't. I couldn't afford to have an employee, but at the same time, we needed I could do with a team of 10 people at the time. I thought TV advertising would be perfect, but I couldn't afford it. So I thought Dragon's Den.
Okay, so you applied for the show.
Applied for the show, and to be fair, then probably 4 or 5 months went by of literally nothing, no contact.
Okay.
And then a no caller ID rang me at 7:30 at night one night, and I always answer my phone because I don't know what it.
Yeah, for
what it
sure.
could be. And answered, and they said, "Oh, it's BBC." And then you go through all of the interview process, and then they rang back the next day and said, "We'd like to invite you down to come and like be a screen test, basically." So when that was on the, they said, "Oh, how long do you need to get all your props ready?" And this is my problem. I always say, I've started to learn more now to say no, but before I'd always be, yeah, no problem. And I said, I think this was a Thursday. I was like, yeah, Monday will be fine. They said, sure. I said, yeah, Monday will be fine. And then I got off the phone and think, Christ, how am I going to actually, because I've got to even come up with a pitch, let alone, so I had to come up with a whole business plan and the whole.
Sorry, what day was this on?
The Thursday.
Okay,
So
brave
and
man.
I'd never done a business plan before.
Okay.
So I rang up my dad's accountant because we hadn't even done our year accounts yet, and he was really nice to me, and he gave me like one of his bookkeepers. He actually sent her over to my granddad's house and spent the whole Friday with me making a business plan and going through all the numbers, whilst I'd got a local builder that was like a family friend. He was behind me building plasterboard frames and making all the props and stuff up
On the show?
for the show. Yeah.
Was he making it on the set as well?
Not on the set. No, this
Okay,
is
this is
on
before.
the Friday.
Okay.
And on the Monday, I had to hire a van, and he came down and literally helped me set it all up.
I kind of think that a lot on that show and what you've gone through is what you see on the TV. There's a
Yeah.
lot of setting up and rushing around before you actually.
Well, this wasn't even on the actual. This was just to show the producers that I could actually pitch on.
Oh,
camera.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but they said to you, whatever you bring on Monday must be what you will bring on the day.
Okay.
So I had to literally. It was
So from that, did you have time to be nervous?
no, I didn't. If I'm
You had
honest
no
with
time. It was a
Yeah,
case of you made the decision, you committed to it, and now it's.
Yeah.
I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but you've literally had to do what?
Everything now. And then literally Monday came like that. And next minute I'm in London, parking at the BBC studios. And then literally on the way in, I bumped into Jeremy Clarkson and Richard Hammond.
Wait, at BBC studio?
Yeah, just in the car park. I was like, this is really weird. now.
Okay.
That was the first time
I reckon you didn't say hello to either of them.
No, did I?
Yeah,
No,
okay.
It's too embarrassed for that. I was probably thinking, I got a pitch in a minute. Just stop looking at them. Worry about
Okay.
your own stuff. But
So you obviously, were you nervous?
it was literally only kicked in when I got there because it felt real. Then I'm thinking, I've seen him on telly.
Okay.
And then did the filming, and they said, it went really well, but they didn't give me an answer.
Yeah.
And then literally weeks
Who did you
later,
film to? Just a camera and
just
a
like
person and a producer?
Yeah. So that it kind of felt quite natural because I knew what I was talking about.
for sure.
And that's the thing with GripIt, because I knew it inside and out. I did feel confident in.
You wasn't misleading. You wasn't misselling. You believed in what you believed in.
Yeah.
You believed in the product.
So yeah, it was about a month later, which when I actually got invited back to actually go and do the real thing.
Yeah.
Which again, everyone says to me like, "Oh, were you not nervous?" It's weird because I genuinely wasn't nervous until literally walking out the lift.
Did you feel like, I've had this before where I've spoken to a group of people I'm unfamiliar with, you kind of go weirdly numb. Like you almost have an out of body experience where you're talking, but you're not conscious of what you've said. Was it like that, or were you actually a bit more relaxed so you actually had time to sort of?
No, it just felt weird because I think we went. I stayed the night before. At that point, I had actually an employee, so I actually asked him to come with me to actually do the demo because I thought if I've got a pitch, I won't be able to do the pitch and the demo because I know I'll get something wrong. So he was kind of with me, but he was absolutely brooking it. And I
Which
think that,
is understandable.
Yeah, which probably I should be doing.
Yeah.
But I think because he was so nervous, it made me more because for some reason I thrive off people being nervous makes me calmer because I'm thinking, oh, okay, well I'm better than them.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we got into the studios in the morning. About to get like 5 a.m, drop all the stuff off, and then you get put in a green room with 4 or 5 other people that are pitching that day. So it was quite interesting because you get to meet all the different people, but every single one of them was so nervous. It was weird because, like I said, it makes me feel. It was making me feel better, and people were like, oh, I need to read my account. I need to check that figure. I need to do this, and they were people practicing in the corner. And then you've got the producers coming in and saying, "Oh, do you want to do a practice run with me?" And I'm saying, "I don't want to do anything. I'd rather just
Do it.
do it."
And you were the youngest person in the room.
Yeah, but no one. again, I don't know how old people thought I was, but I don't think anyone thought I was
Okay.
18.
Okay.
I was always quite shy about saying my age.
Okay.
Worried, I suppose, what people think.
So you were on the show.
Yeah,
You
called up in the end.
You got your investment.
Yeah, did the pitch. Was in there for 2 hours. Or then they cut it back to 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, of course. Get the best bits and the bad bits.
Yeah, and the bad bits.
Yeah, edit
My
it.
radiator fell off the wall because Peter Jones pulled it off.
Oh, cheers, Pete.
Yeah, that went.
I read somewhere that the plasterboard had damp damage.
Yeah, so
to it.
we dropped the plasterboard of the big frame off the night before, and then obviously it was left in their warehouse, so we didn't know the conditions of it as such. And then the day after, obviously it was their lunch break when we set up because we had the most props.
Yeah.
And set it all up. I didn't check anything like that because I was just didn't even think about it. And then I had a swinging chair that I wanted one of them to sit in to prove that it would take the weight. And then they had a radiator on the wall that Craig, who worked for me, fitted live to show them how it worked. Anyway, I said, "Oh, does anyone want to try out the chair?" And then Peter Jones said, "No, I don't want to try the chair, but I'll come and check the radiator." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." Anyway, gave it 2 or 3 tugs, and the whole thing came off the wall.
But you know what? If you're going to give a radiator a good old tug, it's going to fall off the wall anyway, surely.
Yeah. And I think, and like when you look at it, the angle of the frame, because it was like a bodybuilding frame that I turned into like a framework.
Okay.
But it came off, and he was like, "Right, there we go, it doesn't work."
Really?
And I was
oh,
like,
man.
And I can remember I watched Trunky when they were on Dragon's Den years before me, and the clip broke, and I thought, literally after that, everyone was like, "No, out."
Yeah.
And I thought, right, here we go, this is it. But I said, "Oh, that's because the plasterboard's damp." And he said, "Oh, I don't believe it." I said, "No, genuinely, this plasterboard's damp. It would have been left overnight. You can see it crumbling."
Yeah.
And I just kept, I don't know how I did, but I managed to keep calm enough to the point where Deborah then said, "Oh, I'll sit in the chair." And she went and sat in the chair, and I was thinking, please.
Do you think, looking back, you probably wouldn't have put a really heavy... You could have got a radiator and had a fake radiator made, which is really light.
Oh,
Obviously,
yeah,
you believe in
yeah.
the product, but he ain't pulling it off the wall.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
you've-
I
and that's
could've-
that youth honesty, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, that's what I mean. It was completely transparent. Really.
Okay. So Deborah jumped in the chair.
Deborah jumped in the chair, absolutely fine, which then kind of rescued my pitch.
Okay.
And then they asked my age, and that came out. That shocked everybody.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so I think Deborah was the only one to offer the full amount of money for an equity share. The others wanted to do deals and like half
Okay.
it. And ended up setting them for a deal with Deborah.
Fine.
And then that's when the real journey.
Okay, so let's look at... So the journey of the Dragons then happened.
Yeah.
Where did, kind of, 3 years later, where how busy did it get for you?
Mental in the end. So we're, like I said, it was about 500 stores when I went on Dragon's Den, and then within 3 to 4 years, we've gone to 10,000 stores literally across the world. So sounds easy when you say it like that, but that
No, you know what?
was-
We obviously spoke before the podcast, and you've mentioned these figures, and they're massive figures.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you mention these big figures, I don't want to say the word of arrogance because it's not
Yeah, no,
arrogant,
it's-
but for you to turn around and say these thousands of stores,
yeah.
it's not as simple as just mentioning numbers. There is a lot of building up teams.
Oh, yeah.
Logistics go with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for example, when Dragon's Den was aired, we just 2 months after I'd secured to get into Wix, which was all fantastic, all well and good. And at this point, up until Dragon's Den, I was still making these fixings around the dining table.
Yeah.
And then that got to a point where it was too much, so we started going to home workers. So we had, 30 different people from home making them.
Yeah.
And me and a friend would go round, and at this point I could drive, so we had a little van. And I'd go round and I'd pick them all up every Thursday, and I'd drop them off the next box.
Yeah.
So we were literally hand to mouth. We were picking boxes up, and we were shipping stock out the door, to the point with Wix where I had to just to supply their first order, I had to go and buy stock from a shop that had them and repackage to send in, because I couldn't let a customer down. So it was
Wow.
literally hand to mouth of fixings.
And with that, obviously you were after Dragon's Den, but your day-to-day highs and lows,
Yeah.
was there someone in the business, or was there a family member or a friend that you would speak to, just as in just general update?
I'd say
Because
my
you
dad.
go through... Was your dad, yeah?
Yeah, and even though he was in Africa, I'd be either on Skype back then,
Okay.
Skype or Messenger.
And that would
saying-
just be a conversation.
Yeah, only it wouldn't be that long, probably about half an hour a day, and I'd be like, "Oh, this happened today," or "This didn't happen today," and he was like a problem solver, and he'd be like, "Oh, well, do this," or because I can remember when I was like, "I've got no stock for Wix. I literally am going to have to ring the buyer and say
We
supply
can't
your order."
submit. Okay.
And he said, "Well, how much stock has Plumbase down the road got?" And a couple of Plumbases in.
Okay.
I was like, well, enough, but that's going to cost me 800 quid just to. And he was like, well, you're going to have to do it because how much is Wix?
I'm with you.
So it was good.
Would you go in and buy it at full rate? Like, would you?
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I had no choice. And to be fair,
I can just imagine you going in and just being Mr. GripIt, buying all your GripIt stuff from one shop, saying thanks a lot, and them looking at you thinking,
he's just trying to prove the sales.
What's this guy? Yeah, and also, what's this guy doing? Like, how much TVs has he got to hang?
Yeah. So,
okay, so you were doing whatever it took, basically,
whatever it took,
to keep everyone happy and keep things above board.
And like I mentioned before we were filming, it was a constant kind of mission of growing the team, growing the sales team, which meant then sales would pick up, which meant you wouldn't have enough stock. Then you'd ramp up production, and then you'd have too much stock versus the sales. It was a constant kind of
battle. I think people would call it chicken and egg.
Yeah. And there is no one's got 5 million quid to go, right, let's just go and put £500 and we'll just sit it there on the shelf. And if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't. Did you
ever look at, you heard of the Kaizen? You heard of Kaizen?
No, I've not.
Okay, so Kaizen is all big manufacturers. Toyota are the biggest one for this.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese way of working. It's called the Kaizen method. So all our aircon suppliers, Daikin, similar surname as you, Mitsubishi Electric, Panasonic, they all work on Kaizen, and it can be really frustrating. So it's called just in time.
Okay.
So what it is they will have an order bank full before they release the product. So they're always consistently upsetting us by not having the stock. But there's a theory behind it where they keep you interested because the product isn't easily to get.
Yeah.
And also they're never too far behind.
Yeah, because they've got their order book.
I take it you didn't ever have the time to sit down and go, let's look at all the different logistics or how other people are doing things because you were in the storm.
Yeah, no. It got to a point where probably 3 years in, we hired a production where we could afford to hire. At the time,
It's another thing with growing a business is you can't just bring in amazing people because amazing or people with a bit of experience because they cost money.
Yeah, so I think when we did bring one in, we managed to get kind of structuring that in place. But then even then, for the UK market, we'd have been fine. But it got to a point where with America, for example, Home Depot, which is like B&Q over here.
For sure.
We did a trial over there for 280 stores, which went really well in 6 months. And then they said, okay, we'll go to 2,000. We're like, you can't.
Wow.
Who can manage that kind of growth?
Were you then still the 15-year-old, 14-year-old, like, yes? Or at that point, it was impossible? Like, we can't.
I know. I always said yes. I said yes to everything. I used to come back, even when we had, when it got to the end, like before I exited, about a year before we exited, we had a sales director, a finance director, an operations director, everybody, and they used to hate me going out to meetings because it's probably why they put everyone in.
Because they are accountants, and we can have the attitude towards them of they're just bean counters or they're stuck in the Stone Age. They don't because accountants don't understand how to bring in revenue.
No.
They're not salesmen.
And when I'm there in front of a customer and they're saying, "Oh, we want to order this," or "Could you do this to make this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I will," because I'll find it. And to be fair, I'd always found a way of making it work.
There always seems to be a way, doesn't
somehow,
there? There's some mystical thing that comes with it.
Yeah, and then, like I can remember an order for RS components, which was the first time we went from just the UK. They took us to 32 countries literally overnight.
Yeah.
But their order was 2 Arctic lorries worth, and they wanted to come and inspect their order before it left.
Really?
And I think I had about 20 of my friends at the time. I'd roped in everybody's friends, relatives,
everyone
friends.
you knew.
Yeah, and we were working, and it was literally, I used to go home at about 3 a.m, have a shower, see my partner, and then literally say, right, bye, go back out again. I'd do that for 3 days in a row, just so that, and I think I was living off Pro Plus, I think, and energy drinks, just to keep me awake, so that order went out.
Wow.
But then I look back now, that was fun. Yeah. What was boring was when I had to sit in my office with all these people saying, "Oh, is this okay? Can you sign here?"
So when you went abroad, did you have to go to America a lot, or did you have a team at that point?
I handled America because it was, to me, everyone always says to me, if you can crack America, you're made it, because everything's like 7 times bigger than America. So I was really kind of cautious on how we took America. So I handled America. But in terms of like Europe, we had like a European sales manager that went out there. Mm-hmm. It was weird. Every time I stepped back out of the sales, though, the sales didn't grow as much, because I think no one will care about your business and your product as much as you do.
I agree. Yeah,
But the problem is
I agree.
you get to a point where you can't do everything. So there was points where I had to step back to try and focus on a different area.
I know.
But you're trying to juggle so many plates.
It's sometimes if you can get 80% out of your sales guy, that's better than 100% of you because you're spread really thin.
Yeah, and I do get it, but you're trying to find the right team.
No one is ever going to get behind your GripIt product like you because you they just aren't.
Yeah, but we did get there in the end. We got a really good team in certain areas. But you're never going to get a perfect one. But there was one year I can remember we had 38 staff. No, we had 40 staff and we had 38 people that we'd let go in that year. So we near enough done a 1 in, 1 out.
Wow.
Because of recruitment was just
the way things were.
And the thing I always found with people come for interviews, they tell you what they think you want to hear.
Oh, of course.
CVs don't mean anything because my CV would be.
So when you even after Dragon's Den and you were a lot bigger business, were you involved with interviews?
I was for the first couple of years because I wanted to know who's coming in.
So when you were interviewing, unless you were a recruiter and you've done thousands of interviews, you're not an expert. But where would you find the good in people? Would it be on their background, what they do, or do you just get? I have it where I just feel I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Like there's an intuition which words can't, which usually works. Sometimes it doesn't. But where do you find you're good?
To be fair, I had it was a mixture because I had family that came and worked for me that didn't work out. I had certain friends that came to work for me who were fantastic. I had certain friends that came to work for me that didn't, and it ended up ruining our friendships.
Yeah,
so
of course.
And then you'd find external people, which again, because of the Dragon's Den buzz, there was quite a buzz to come and work.
Yeah, of course.
At GripIt.
And they will say whatever they want to say
to get the job.
Okay.
People then would sometimes take liberties. Some people did. It was really difficult to try and, because normally I go off instinct, but it was difficult then because people weren't being themselves.
Okay.
I'm
with you.
But like I said, we got there in the end. I'd say 80% of the staff were good.
Okay. So you parted ways with GripIt. How long were you? So from invention to completion, let's call it completion, when you sort of left.
So
how long were you involved?
About 9 years.
You did 9 years?
Yeah, 9 years in total. It was 5 years from Dragon's Den to me exiting. But yeah, 9 years in total.
Okay. And what was your first role after GripIt?
Well, in the last kind of 18 months before GripIt, before I exited GripIt, I started to get that itch then. All of a sudden, GripIt used to be my literally life.
Yeah.
And then I started to get an itch of other things I wanted to get involved in. And it was when my daughter was born. No, when I found out I was having a little baby girl, I decided I need to start spreading my risk because obviously GripIt we had a plan, it was an exit. But then I kind of think, what am I going to do next? And like, what happens if the housing market crashed?
Yeah, for sure.
People didn't want to do houses up. So I started to try and invest in different things. So I'd already started to kind of dabble in different bits and bobs, but I didn't have the time to really commit to it.
Okay.
So as soon as I'd kind of done the deal to exit GripIt, I'd set up like a distribution company. So, which I've still got now, but I've got someone who actually used to work for me at GripIt now heads that up for me. Where we help inventors, where we distribute products basically. So like you could come up with a product that's
you've got the experience.
Yeah, we can help to market. We've got the contacts with the nationals to do that with. So that was my kind of first role really, was kind of doing what I'd already done, but on a small, startup scale with lots of different inventors, because that's the challenge I enjoy.
Okay.
Like I said, it gets.
So have you met inventors 15, 16?
What,
years old?
No.
Like you? You've not found another you?
Not yet. No, I think the youngest one I helped, obviously there's ones I've met at schools I've kind of given advice to, but ones I've actually helped as inventors, 24.
And what does a typical inventor look? Obviously it depends on what they're inventing, but what are the traits? What are they, the traits that you had, or actually is there an element of fluke to this where they just find a product that they know is needed and they make it?
Yeah, very. I think you've got some that are dedicated. They found an idea and that's it. That's just going to, a bit like what I was, very driven. That's going to work. then you've got a lot of people that self-doubt because they've come up with something and they think, well, why has no one else come up with that?
Peer groups, maybe they've got loads of friends,
Yeah.
and they want to play football in the afternoon, and they say, yeah, it's rubbish, it'll never work.
Yeah.
And then you just brush under the carpet.
Yeah, and that's the kind of people that I'm trying to tap into now because I, as well as we can distribute everything, I also do kind of consultancy to help people develop their ideas.
So does that come into your Jordan Daykin Foundation?
Yeah, a bit of both. So I can
Okay.
even do it from schools where kind of kids want to help in terms of a business plan for their
So you
idea.
go into schools, you speak to the children which aren't top of the class,
Yeah.
maybe don't have the perfect upbringing, and you actually sit down and say, well, actually, this might not be all positive on one side, but it's actually creating a byproduct which you can channel into something else.
Yeah.
Is that the angle?
Yeah. Well, I go in both because schools are a bit reluctant sometimes to send me in because obviously I left school so early and it kind of goes against some of their systems which they put in place. But I'm quite open and honest in the fact that I do think there needs to be a bare level of a kind of level of education that you need to be able to fall back on in life.
For
but
sure.
At the same time, just because you don't get an A star and you might get a C, doesn't mean you're kind of that's you're a failure. You could start a business. You can have a second income if you wanted. You could still go to uni, but you could have sidelined incomes.
So schools now, I've got a big opinion on it, but I don't think they're very capitalist. I think they're not pro-capitalist. They're probably more pro-socialist. And what I mean by pro-socialist is the school system is everything. If you don't get the grades, children now, when I was in school, if you wasn't the smartest kid in school, it was fine. It was cool. You could still be cool. Whereas now, there seems to be an element of if you're not smart to the curriculum, you're not good, and it does create a low self-esteem in kids.
Yeah, I think it's all I say Ofsted. Because it's literally ticking boxes for Ofsted is what I normally see when I go in.
Is that what I have in my daughter's nursery where it's very clean, they're very it's ticking boxes. You've got pictures of your daughter doing this, but you actually look at it and go, you're spending more time doing this than you are actually with my child.
Yeah, I think there is some because I'm actually a governor at one of a local nursery here, and they're trying to do things differently. But the problem is it's difficult for schools to go against the mainstream because of Ofsted, because it is such a box ticking exercise. But
we're in a situation in the country where I don't think we've got any in terms of inventions over the last 50 years. I think the inventors are now abroad. They're in the countries where they're actually free to think.
Correct. Yeah.
So you'd agree to the fact that the schools aren't like they used to be with us.
No, definitely. To be fair, even when I was at school, there wasn't enough kind of discussions about real life topics, and there wasn't real people that were coming in and talking to me. Like for me, going in to speak to a class of 30 kids about my story, I hope kind of even if it just inspired one child, that would make a big difference. And I don't know why schools can't work closely with businesses and entrepreneurs, and even it doesn't have to be someone who's made £1 million. It can be someone who's started a business like a gardening business or a beauty therapy business, someone real life experiences that kids can actually say, okay, and
also to add to that, if you've got a local business, and what I mean by local business, it could be a corporate business, it could be a medical company, to have a CFO or an operations director come in and talk to a load of kids in that 9-to-5 job category
shows real life experience, and also I do
because they still do work experience. I'd never get that they're pushed to do work experience.
Yeah,
but a lot of kids get pushed to do it because they don't want to be the only kid in school that isn't
doing the work experience. Yeah, and then they go to anything that they can just get.
Correct.
But
or they find someone that's got local business and say, "Oh, my dad said, can I come and do work experience with you?"
Yeah, it's not what they're interested in; it's what they just have to find. But there is no real life learning, is what I see at school. They don't teach you how to save for a mortgage, interest rates. There's there's literally no. Real
we
life
sit on the
topics.
same fence with this. I don't. I think finance should be taught massively in school. There's a book that I bang on about called The Richest Man in Babylon. Very old book. Okay. It's very easy read. It was written in the 20s or 30s.
Okay.
And there's a simple a concept in there. A tenth of what you earn is yours to keep.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing as in, you get paid.
Yeah.
Keep some money saved.
Yeah.
Don't spend all your money in your foot. And then what you do is you see these children coming out of school with these bad habits.
Yeah.
We've all had it, and we've all done it. They're buying stupid things, and they haven't got a penny in the bank. And then we wonder why, as they get older, we have a culture of people that aren't doing as well because they can't keep money in the bank. You sort of think, well, school has produced this person that's supposed to be able to think for themselves, have a bit of common sense, really smart, get a good job, feed back into society. And I don't think we're getting it. Well, it's happening, but we're just not getting it.
But if you asked someone who's just left school what about a credit file, they'd probably like, what? So like, or you should have a credit card, but don't only utilize it.
Use it in an emergency.
Yeah. All they get to 18 or 20, 21, and their friends are like, oh, you should get a credit card because you get £1,000, and that is you've already started the wrong way
the trait. That's scaling up to a character which unfortunately isn't so good. I've seen it many times. Many times, and you sort of think you can only say so much because then you just become that old man giving a youngster some advice. You're like, damn, I feel old. Like, do you not learn this stuff in school? And they quite clearly don't. And to add into the mix, kids now, because we've got quite a few schools as clients, public schools you have to have a minimum of 32 to 36 kids to a teacher and an assistant. So add a bad or an out-of-date curriculum with Ofsted box ticking to an overcrowded class, and you're like, where's your inventor? Or where is your, like for us, where is your engineer with loads of desire to have sort of morality in their work to be the best, to be the best engineer? Because the reality is the odds are stacked so far against them. And then versus the other side, which is the private school. So you've been in private school?
I've been in private school, but my kids won't go to private school.
Is that because of your?
I don't. So to me, I put kid money away. I put the same amount as what I would spend in private education away every month into ISAs for my kid, or JISAs.
Okay.
Kids, because at least then when they're, hopefully might not give it to them when they're 18 because they might be going off on holiday.
For sure.
But they'll have more there.
But you being the dad, I'm sure you're certain to put them in a position where they're going to understand that having a credit card at the age of 16 and or 18.
Probably not the best idea.
Yeah, of course.
But you never know. Because I've seen, like, my brother was in private education. He left when he was 14 and went down a bad road because sometimes being in that scene just gives people access to more money, which means when people get hooked on drink, drugs.
There seems to be like two elements here with like the parenting thing is massive here versus the school. I've got a few. I was normal school. I wasn't private, but I do know quite a few private people who are in like a private school. It depends what private school it is, because a lot of private schools out there which they still sit in the socialist communist thing where they're just actually the parents become lazy because they say my kid goes to this school and what they're taught, there's nothing real world about it.
It's a status thing for parents because you can well, not everyone,
but for some,
for majority, you can see them in the car park. They've got the car. The kids go to private school. Do you know what I mean? They go on the holidays every year. You can see it's quite a status symbol for quite a lot of people. But when you actually look at the education, the classes are getting bigger anyway. You're talking 20. It used to be 10 to 15. Now some private schools are touching 24.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. So when you look
it still depends on the school. Well, there is a school. Because private schools are businesses.
Yeah,
they are at the end of the day.
The extra child they can put in makes them an extra 15 grand a year. So,
correct.
So I think it used to be better than what it was, but also it all depends on how you want your children brought up. Like to me, I want my children to be as grounded as they possibly can, which can be difficult when they grow up around a certain lifestyle. But I think being in public school, they hang around with what I class as sounds bad and not normal people. Grounded, real people. Parents some people have jobs, some people have their own businesses. There's a whole mix, and I know a lot of people that will choose not to send their kids to private school. I
think the area, obviously we're in Westbury.
Yeah.
It's a smaller town.
Yeah, I
think
agree
it's
in cities.
I think the area. So we're just outside Crawley, but I'm a Crawley boy, and I always will say that. But unfortunately, people are putting their children, if they can afford it, into a private school. Just because to keep them out of the public schools because there's riffraff. And I've always got, sort of God willing, I can put my child in a private school or have the opportunity to put her in a school where she isn't going to come home and tell me that someone's dad has just been let out of prison for murder.
Yeah.
I'm sure I had this.
Yeah. But
people talking about drug dealing and all sorts, and you're like, and you sort of look at it and be like, oh, that's really... Well, actually, you didn't have it.
I didn't have it, but I know obviously
you
friends
knew of it,
and also but at the same time, because now I've one of my businesses where we're filming now is hospitality.
Yeah,
you meet a lot of people up here that, and obviously the younger generation they've got the money to be out because they're at home still living with their parents.
Yes, of course.
So I chat to a lot of people here, and you find out so much more what actually goes on at schools nowadays. And I actually think, especially local, some of the private schools here are worse because they've got access to parents' money.
I'm with you.
And the parents, especially boarding pupils, because the parents aren't here. Some of them are abroad.
So I was going to say something during the show, which I haven't done because I thought maybe it's a bit brash, but I actually think sometimes putting your kid in this better private school is actually a laziness and cop out for the parent. And my sort of statement is supported with when we go around to people's houses, which are high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
My engineers will vouch me on this, but you could have a child on an iPad for the whole day and not even talk to anyone. And you sort of think, where's the parents? And they've got a nanny.
Yeah.
Rather than the public school where the parents have got time to be with their children and actually have a conversation with them.
And if you then compare those children when they're later on in life, there will be differences.
Correct. 100%. I don't think we've even started. I know we've got social media and phones that haven't helped with that, but so you've actually got a good insight, maybe slightly better than me then, where you see the difference in kids. I've noticed it. It where, sitting down with you, Jordan, it's like, well, I think although you're a rare breed, we've got similar traits where you're an entrepreneur, but sometimes I call it a curse.
Yeah.
Have you ever called it a curse?
No, yeah.
And you sort of think, damn, where's it? I wish I never had this itch.
9 to 5 would be great. Yeah.
Whereas I don't think this country isn't churning them out.
No.
Or if they are churning them out, they're in such a small percentage
Minority,
to what they were. Have you met anyone like yourself along the journey, as in a fixing or a business where you've actually thought, I'd like to be friends with him because we've got similar, as in to change your peer group?
So I did some of the like awards and all this stuff with GripIt and a lot of PR, and you meet a lot of different networking. I've met a couple of friends that I gelled with, and they're similar to me. The difference is there is so many people out there that I don't know the nicest way to put it.
You're going to say snake oil salesman?
Yeah, it's just so typical. But like, look at me.
For sure,
I've done this. When you probably look into it, they haven't actually done a lot.
For sure, is this where your usual? Where we've unfortunately got we have got young people looking up people online as social media influencers saying that they've sold businesses for 50 million quid, and you look at it and it's not even a fifth of that.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that social media doesn't help with that. And like, there's someone I know, for example, that literally goes and has photo shoots. There's a place in London where you can hire an area for the day, and you can literally have a photo with a jet.
You are joke with a what? A jet?
Private jet.
No
sit
way.
in a jet and pretend you're living this luxury lifestyle.
And Ben, have you come across this or not?
No, I haven't.
Because
people are buying like enrolling into their like subscription models to see how well they're doing every month.
Do they have a couple of Lamborghinis you can take a photo in front of?
So and like that's what, and that I just doesn't interest me. Like the networking scene is so different out there when you
it's tricky, isn't it? Because everyone you speak to, on the front end, everyone you speak to, and anyone in life in general, unfortunately, people do have motives sometimes when they speak to you. Can they use you? Who you are.
Everyone, the amount of people that have met me over the time, they're actually like, "Oh, you're actually all right." And like when I go to the pub, and people look at me, and I can think, "Oh, what have I done?" And then when you speak to them, say, "Oh, you're actually all right." Well, yeah, I am, because what you see is what you get. Like if I'm having a bad month financially, I'm happy to say it. I mean, my car's on lease. A lot of people I know that have money lease their cars because it's better for efficiency.
For sure.
I think there's too much bravado of some people, and they give the real people a bad name, if that makes sense.
For sure. Well, what people don't realise is that whether it's your car, you lease it, and it costs a lot to lease, etc., they don't know 16-year-old, 14, 13-year-old Jordan. They don't understand the journey. But even just in general, it's two sides though, isn't it? Because now people lease cars, they haven't got a pot to piss in. And then we're supposed to look at these people and they forget all the
amount of people I see, and you think, well, how are they affording because they've got a brand new Mercedes, they're paying 300 quid a month for or whatever, but that's a lot out of their earning that they're getting. It's each to their own.
I don't know. It is each. For me, I had an engineer. He doesn't work with us anymore. Young lad, years ago, and he was falling into that bracket of low self-esteem, anxious because it's all about having a flash car and putting it on the internet. And I remember speaking to him saying, get yourself a £2,000 1 Series BM diesel, good on fuel, never go wrong, cheap to fix, blah, blah, blah. And he's actually got one, and I saw his dad recently, and he's actually saved quite a lot of money because he's not done that. And I think he's got out of that. It's a bit bullshitty, like of keeping up appearances or keeping up with the Joneses.
Oh yeah, I went.
You've probably been through it. We've,
I've
everyone seems to go through it,
and I think it is normal. The more money, I would say, the more money you earn, the more money you spend.
Yeah, that's the quickest way of losing your money.
Yeah. And but I think everyone does it, and I did it for a good year and a half until I think I said before we were filming. Until I started to have, when I found out I was having a little girl.
And you grow a bit of a conscience.
Yeah, you've got to start.
But I'm sure you've had friends for the years, and I have, where they get paid relatively well salary wise.
Yeah.
And they still, we call it lording it up.
Yeah.
So you hear they've had a pay rise, whether it's £1,000 or £3,000, and they go and buy something, and you sort of think, oh, they're lording it up now.
Yeah.
And
or they buy something that's £5,000.
Exactly that. You sort of think,
pay rise only £3,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay.
It's like, but I think people, if like I found, if people actually spend the time to actually get to know the person, the inventor, the entrepreneur, then you actually get to know the real person. Like with me, when I started this place, a lot of people locally thought, he just bought a
well, by the looks of things, we've walked around it. It's very nice, and I understand you bought it and it wasn't very nice. You've actually made a nice place for the local community as such that people can come and have a drink in. Is it a private venue? Is it open to the public?
Yeah, it's open to the public. Yeah, we took on the lease back 2 years ago. Spent a lot of money. Like I said, hospitality is definitely not one to make. Well, in my opinion, where to make money. It's more of, for me, it was more of something that I can get involved in, being like, it can keep me busy.
There's a challenge here, and as I said to you before, I can see this being your castle because it's lovely. You could lose yourself here for the day, find out what's going on, and add bits and take away bits as well.
But like what people don't really, and obviously locally have seen, is that I've been behind the bar pouring pints. I've been moving the kegs around. I've called bingo out on a Monday night. Like I've never been afraid to get involved,
get stuck in
doing stuff, because that's what I enjoy. And I think when that was taken away from me at GripIt, when I was, like I said before, I was sales director, and
so you stay. You obviously you lost.
Get bored.
I get it.
So I get it. For me, I'm not the typical person where, like, I think people you see on The Apprentice and Dragon's Den and Love Island, for example, all these people, and they end up hanging around with the same sort of people. But I never gelled with them people because I don't want to be the flashy person that people don't know.
Oh, I get it. Well, you know what you could have done. You probably your model could have been Dragon's Den, continue the PR. I don't know, meet some crazy woman. Pictures of you dangalang all over the internet, and then you're sitting on Piers Morgan doing a
pay me 25 quid a month to be part of my group.
To be fair, I would have been lording it up.
A lot of people would, wouldn't
a lot of people, and I'm not saying they're wrong because they make a lot of money off of it, but
I think, you know what, when you lie in bed at night or you get to a certain age, you sort of look at what you've done and you sort of think, really, I've really blew it.
Yeah,
because
I've made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and I kind of look back. I could have done that better. I could have done.
You've probably made thousands of mistakes.
Yeah,
you learn from it. Sometimes you acknowledge the learn, and sometimes you just take it on the chin and go, "Okay, that was bad."
Yeah, and but like now, I've kind of if you'd have asked me when I started GripIt, kind of what do you want? I'd be like, I want to make 10 million, 20 million, 100 million. Yeah. But like now, I'm comfortable. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a billionaire and like that, but I'm comfortable, and I can now pick and choose what I want to do. Yeah. And my lifestyle is completely different. I see. But
how old are you now?
28.
So for someone to sit down and say, well, Jordan's 28, maybe someone's watching there in their early 20s thinking, oh, it's easy enough for him to say that. People need to understand that if you put in the hard work and you're willing to give up 12, 13 years of your life to one thing, that's what you need to do. Yeah. Don't just think it's going to be easy.
And be calculated on the risk. You can risk. The good thing when I was younger is I didn't have a house. I lived at home. So I could risk things where now I probably wouldn't take as many risks as what I did back then. Because
you know what? Now is very difficult.
Yeah.
We have it now. Well, you have it here. It's not as easy as it ever was. It's actually getting trickier. And if you haven't got your heart in the game, you will lose because others will, with a slightly bit more fire in their belly, will overtake you.
Yeah.
but the shit not as easy as it was 10 years ago.
No, and like hospitality, like I said, people aren't spending the money that they used to because
Or if they
life-
are, they want more value for money.
Yeah, yeah,
and they want to spend less.
yeah. So like, and life is expensive. It's not an easy market out there at all. And to start a business is not what it used to be like.
No
like
way.
Me and my brother started an estate agency 2 years ago. We've closed it already. Didn't
Right,
work.
okay.
But we tried it, and you got the thing with these things. Things don't always work. So I
No,
think
for sure.
It's easy for me to sit here and everyone think, oh wow, he's done really well off of that. Well, yeah, but I've had.
I think
lots
on
of
the,
things
I
that
think
didn't.
sit on the fly on the wall and be like, oh, Jordan just opened an estate agency. Oh, he's closed it. Oh, here we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Another one of his things.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
sort of think, well, actually, you've gone through the motions, you've learnt loads, and you've realised that actually to do what you want with it and it to be any value, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I
Because
think,
a lot of people are so afraid. They think, oh, well, I'm going to start this up, and they never do.
Yeah.
And then they become the 60-year-old man in a pub talking about what they should have done.
Yeah. I'd rather try it, and I've always thought, oh, I could have an estate agency might be interesting, but definitely in this market, it wouldn't
It's
work.
tricky,
And I
yeah.
think it's different. I think when, and this is not me being arrogant, but I think when you start a business and that's your business and you need to make that work,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a lot stronger possibility of it actually work, if that makes sense. Like,
Oh, yeah,
if,
for sure.
If that was my only business, that was my only kind of source of income, I would be confident I could get it to work or at
I'm
least
with
cover.
you. I'm with you.
Whereas because the fire on my belly is not what it used to be, like it was when I started GripIt.
But GripIt was different because
Yeah,
GripIt
because-
was
and
the
my main
GripIt.
thing. Yeah, it was. It's
Not
different.
the estate agent, unless you're going to
No.
open up a virtual estate agency,
Yeah.
which there already is.
Yeah, so it's very different and difficult.
I think the
to get
market with
rid of.
estate agency, not that I'm an inventor, is to do the American model. So but then I think there might be laws involved with that.
Yeah,
So
it's different, yeah,
you know in America the realtor or the estate agent does everything.
yeah,
Does everything.
yeah, the lot.
Whereas I
but-
think in the UK there's like
Yeah.
anti-bribery and stuff. I think.
yeah, there's all sorts of.
Well, you know, you're the
yeah.
estate agent.
Well, was the estate agent. But
Was
yeah,
the
you've got to
estate
try these things. But
Just to wrap this up, Jordan, if you were to sit down with if there was Jordan at 13, 14, 15 years old over there now, what would you sort of give him as a bit of advice that you probably could have done with? Because I can definitely tell that you probably could have done with more mentors or
Yeah.
or people that you could.
Yeah.
I know that always comes later on, but that's just life. But
yeah, I think even in my book, I think one of my kind of top tips to people is listen and learn from successful people.
Yeah.
And I used to read books of dragons. Duncan Bannatyne's book was really good.
Okay.
Because it shows the good things and the bad things. I
Yeah.
think there's too much talk now of all the positives and the good
know.
things, especially social media doesn't help at all. But like you need to focus on the bad things. What
For
went
sure,
wrong?
for sure.
Why did that business not work?
For sure.
Because then you can learn from people's mistakes. You'll make your own mistakes
Mm-hmm.
because you need to. But I think the more people you can learn from, the better. But
Okay.
find the right people, because I've met them at the networking sites, the people that portray themselves as these.
they jump on the small business owners,
yeah.
tell them give us this per month and we'll
Yeah.
do this, and
They're not the right people to talk to.
For sure.
Which is what. So I meet inventors now, business consultancy. Yeah, I could charge a fortune. Luckily, I'm in a position where I don't need to charge.
But if
big
you
stuff.
wanted to, you've actually got a business that you've successfully grown,
Yeah, no, I
nation,
could, but people
worldwide.
can't afford. Like I can look at it when I was a small. Like I couldn't afford a business consultant because you kind of think they kind of how
Yeah,
do
for
you
sure.
get that money on top of trying to start a business? So I try and do it. I've even got some that I'm taking a reduced rate but getting shares, because then
Fair enough.
it's in my interest to make
To
it work.
scale, yeah, for sure, for sure.
So it's you can be flexible, but I think you get honest advice. Like I've met a couple of weeks ago, I met someone who came with their idea, and I could have easily said, "Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Come with me, and I'll charge you
Yeah,
a
of
couple of grand a
course,
day."
of
And
course.
then it didn't work. I said to him, "It's not to me. I don't think it will work." That's
Mm-hmm.
not me saying don't do it, but I just don't. I could be.
They could leave that and say, "Well, Jordan's knows what he's talking about, but I disagree with him. I'm
And
going
keep
to
going,
use
yeah,
this
yeah.
as fire to
Yeah, yeah.
to prove him wrong, right?
Yeah,
Be like
and-
Peter Jones with your
yeah, and,
radiator."
like, there's loads of products and dragons den that don't get investment, and then
And they did, yeah. There's a few, yeah. We've seen, yeah.
But
Some of them really well.
Yeah, but I reckon there's so many. There's a company called I won't name out, but a local company about an hour ago that does kind of development
Okay.
of products, and they'll take anything on because they get paid to do the CAD drawings, they get paid to do.
I see.
So like,
So they win. It's like a no.
They
They win
yeah,
regardless,
yeah, you lose all the time.
for sure.
But I think you need to try and find people that are giving you real
Yeah,
advice.
and I think the world that we live in, unfortunately, then people are quite hard to find.
Yeah.
They're quite hard to find.
But yeah, that would be my tip.
Okay. And then in terms of if you are in year 9 in school or year 10 in school and you have maybe got a bit rough at home, and your GCSEs are looking terrible.
Yeah.
You know, what would you advise? Would you advise find a hobby, find something that you like?
Yeah, hobby. To be fair,
Because there are a lot of children now, they don't have hobbies. So they don't even understand how to build a passion because they don't know what they like and dislike because they don't try.
but you could just go and get a job somewhere in something you're interested in. Work for free. So like we had someone at GripIt came to us and he'd had a real tough upbringing. His CV was rubbish. He didn't have any track record really of anything. But he actually came up to me and said, look, this is my CV. It's not great. This is me, but I want a chance. And he even said he'd be happy to work for free just to try and give. And we gave him a chance. To be fair, he was like really dedicated, and it kind of got him in the door. So I think if you say, for example, you want to go and work in business and get into sales or become an inventor, go and ask. So, like, for example, around here, you could have come to me at GripIt and said, okay, can I just come and work here a day a week for free? Or
you know what,
Saturday?
Jordan, we share the same thing. I have it now where you want to sort of just say to people, you just come and try it out.
Yeah.
But they just don't want. I don't know. We have a large portion of people that they don't want to try.
Yeah,
so
That's
if you are in that position, just take some action.
Yeah, you've got to do something about it. I get if you've got it rough at home and stuff, it can be difficult. But the only person who's going to change it is you.
Yeah, correct.
And it could be it could be crap at home.
You've obviously, your upbringing. Maybe your dad being in Sierra Leone. One thing it has taught you from an early age is it is you. And I've felt that where I've had quite a good upbringing with parents and things, but no one can do anything. Your parents aren't always right.
And they're not always there.
And they're not always there.
Things,
so it's like at the end of the day, if you need to do it for yourself, whether it's working well in your job or just effort in general.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's that and a mix of it gets you ready for life, because the mental health, like no one really talks about mental health in business and that, but the strain that it puts on
with business, I don't recommend anyone doing it. I don't, Jordan. I don't recommend anyone doing it. I don't, I call it a curse sometimes, but it's a curse that you lie back and you think, well, can anyone do it better than you? Well, no. So, continue on as such.
I've got it. People say to me, "Oh, do you want your kids to do like? Oh, you're going to be like daddy when you're." I'm like, no. I quite happy with her.
Let them do it. I said to Ben on the way up, I was like, if my daughter wants to be a carer and work in a hospital as a nurse, as long as she gives 110% and she's the best nurse and she enjoys it. Well, enjoys it sometimes, because enjoying what you don't, you can't enjoy everything. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it can be a bit of a curse.
No, I'll agree on that one.
But cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jordan.
No, thanks for coming down.
Let's wrap it up. And season 3, episode 1 is complete. Like, subscribe. See you next time.